Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and I'm getting around to those Abumatic 170s. They were sent in by Bill up in Massachusetts, and he sent me a parts reel, which is going to be great because I'll be able to demonstrate how this reel comes apart and how it goes back together again without fear of kind of wrecking anything up, if you will. It's been a while since I worked on one of these, but to the north here you can see all the pieces and parts that make up this reel. And the reason why I chose to do it on the parts reel is these are brand new. They haven't been used. They're new in the box. Bill wants to have them tuned up for his grandkids, take them fishing, and I figured, what the heck, we'll tune these up. They're only going to need some oil and grease, and then I'll show you how it all comes apart and goes together as part of that process. So a couple of things about the reel. First of all, very attractive metal casing. I believe that this one started manufacture in the 1950s, and it's a very popular reel, very well made and designed. It's made in Sweden. It's the Abumatic 170. It carries the Garcia badge. Now, Garcia was the U.S. Importer for the Abu reels, and a lot of questions sometimes you see Abu Garcia, and then other times you'll see Zebco Cardinal with the Abu tagging on it. And that was a matter of distribution rights in the U.S. as opposed to companies being different. At any rate, to operate the reel, you simply push down on the button. That'll release the line, and then when you want to crank back up, simply trip that. This has got a synchro drive on it. It's got a nice drag system, which we'll show you. It's got a nice drag system. It's got a synchro drive. So what happens on a synchro drive is actually you set your drag to the way you want it to be. Then if you back this off, you can see how I just turned it maybe a quarter of a turn. That's going to release about half the drag, and it's easy to pull out. And then again, when you go back into gear, you've got a tighter drag set to the way you want it to set. So it's about a half drag release if you just go into synchro mode by tripping backwards as opposed to forward. That's kind of unique to the Abu reels. You'll see that on some of the Ambassadors as well. Ocean City came up with one that was really fascinating for the time. It didn't have the star drag, but it did have this concept. If you wound backwards, that was really your way of loosening this, and if you wound forward, it was your way of tightening it. So when you were normally retrieving against the fish, you were tightening the drag. If you needed more play, you simply backed off the handle and let the fish run. So kind of cool in that regard. Let me show you the 2 or 3 tricks about getting this reel open, and then we'll go on to showing you the assembly part and the like. So if you have one of these and you want to get it into pieces and parts like that, start by removing the cap. The cap is just a short twist away. Next thing you want to do then is you want to remove the carrier or the line pickup. You hold the handle and you turn this in a counterclockwise direction. That will get rid of that'll unscrew here, right? And that screw's got the spring in it, which is going to be the return piece. And then this piece, you would think you would do the same, but you don't. This has got a little hook up in it. Let's see if I can find it here. You see those 2 little studs on the bottom of this, right? You have to turn this clockwise to remove your line spool. And then you can service everything you want to service up top here. So this has got a little bit of dried or shellacked grease on it, so I'm just going to give it out right now with a paper towel. Again, this is new, never been used, so it's a nice fine example of what's going on there. I'm just going to put a drop or 2 of oil on there just to keep that in its right place. And then again, we have the studs below. Just going to clean up that old dried grease on there, right from the factory, I'm sure. Then line the 2 studs up with the eyelet holes, and then you're going to turn to lock this one in place. You're going to turn it counterclockwise for the lock, right? And then you're going to take, you got this kind of all strung up here, but you're going to take your line gatherer. It has the 2 pickup points on it. And that's going to go in, and it's going to tighten down in your traditional righty-tighty kind of a way. And again, hold your handle if you need to lock that in. That's all you need to do up top here. we're good there. Okay, and then I'm just going to put this bell back on here because we're done with the top housing. The only other trick to get this reel open then is the downside assembly here. Just playing around with this line. It always, to me, I probably should have just taken the line off, quite honestly. But Bill, I think you're going to need to change the line on this. It's old line. It's kind of getting squirrely here. And then it's just that quarter of a turn and you're back on there, and you turn and you'll be able to reel this back in like we're doing there. Okay, the other thing is, how do you get this off? Again, the normal thought would be to kind of go in a counterclockwise normal way. That's not the answer for this one. This one is a clockwise rotation. So we'll just take that off to show you. So if you're turning what would normally be, or our tendency would be, to tighten, that's how this screw is coming off. It's actually a nut cap, like that. Okay, I'm not going to disturb this. I'm going to rest assured, as a new reel, it needs no drag service, but I will show you the drag service on the one I have apart, just to make that easy for you. So then the back end service of this one is the two screws on the other side, which are holding the case. And if you have a reel like this, this is the minimum you should be doing. You should be removing the two screws here to get access to the case. There's two long screws and a side plate. Like that, and then your button comes out. You can see how the button is sitting here. Your button will just remove out, and here's your assembly. And I'll do a good cleaning of this as part of the service here. I am going to just kind of squirt that down. I'm just going to let that sit over to the side here, and I'll come back and just complete cleaning and oiling that. So let's go back to this side then. We'll show you how to rebuild this whole reel if you have it. Now, this reel was marked as a parts reel from Bill, and the reason for that is the spool is broken. I'm going to go see if I can't find one somewhere, but these are pretty rare, so just understand that that is the core issue there, right? So we showed you up top there how it all came together. Let's show you from the bottom end how this all comes together. So this is a synchro drive. It has a drag washer. There's a tooth ratchet here, which is your anti-reverse. I've left that in place. I've also left the little center key in place. So the first thing up then is your drag washer, and that drag washer has kind of an eared approach on it on the internal to that. You're going to see two studs here, one on each side of this ratchet, and those ears are going to fit over that stud, or that pair of studs. So just take your time, line them up. And it goes in just like that. There's a center ferrule or a guide that's going to go in here like that, and then we're going to grab the main shaft. Now this is going to put the pressure onto the drag washer, so when you're tightening and loosening your drag, you're pulling this in and out against that drag washer. That's your adjuster for your drag washer, and that's the screw that we were just taking out this way, right? So your drag washer is going to pull this to the case. It's going to pull this in. It's going to give you pressure on that for your drag washer. So this is a parts reel. Again, you can see the rut actually that was worn into it by the drag washer there. And I'm just simply going to put that back in place. Okay, so once you have your main gear and assembly established, we can go up top and rebuild the rest of this reel. I start by using the crosswind block. Now, of course, if you were cleaning and lubricating this reel, you would clean out that channel there, put fresh grease in it, then load it over the stud. And the next thing I do is I take this bar, that's going to be the trip bar, and the pinion gear. The small side goes inside the pinion gear, Then I insert through the case and through the hole in the crosswind block, and I mesh the pinion gear with the main gear. Next up then is this carrier. I'm not quite sure what it's called. Remember, it's got that little connecting tie down here. Of course, when you need another hand here. Over the top, and then screw this in. Make sure that this lockdown gets between the holes here. And then you can tighten that down the rest of the way with your wrench. And then if you want, you can give it a little turn. You'll see that your cap is moving the way it should. Next up then is to install the carrier for the spool. That goes over the top of this assembly. And it goes through the crosswind block like that. And we're going to grab the two small clips. Sometimes you can get these in by hand. Sometimes you need a little assist. I usually need the assist. I grab a little pliers here and pull it in like that. The other one, usually with my big hands, is a little bit more problematic there because of that case. But we can generally work it in. And then same thing here. Use your pliers to guide it on there. There you go. So that's that. Now we should see this moving up and down, which is going to move your spool up and down. And that's how it's working underneath here. All right. And then, of course, with this one's got the broken spool here, but you would take your two studs and you would match those in. Remember, we turned it counterclockwise to take it off, so you're going to turn it clockwise to put it on. It's your broken spool at this point, which doesn't do much for anything. But you put your spool back on, and then this goes back on in a clockwise manner. I'm going to tighten that down, and now we should see everything going up and down and kind of turning the way it should. All right, underneath then, the only thing left in this rebuild then is the trip lever. The trip lever goes in here, bolt up top and below. I'm using the bolts from the wrong one, but that's okay. For illustration purposes, right? So that's it. That's how you take this reel apart, service it, and put it back together again if you had any questions. I'm going to take this one out and put the other one in because I have the other one apart on my desk here. I'll go ahead and take care of that one. But the assembly is kind of interesting to note. Clips. And there we go. So now we have a fully functioning reel. Again, this is a parts reel, and you're hearing the spool underneath, right? But interestingly enough, our little pop mechanism is working. So if we could find a replacement spool for this one, and I'm going to call around, see if I can find one. And this reel is no longer a parts reel, right? It was only a parts reel because of the broken spool. So that's it. That's how you take apart, you service, you clean, and you restore an Abumatic 170 closed face spinning reel. I'm going to get back to work. Bill sent me several of these. I've got to get that dry grease out of there, go clean it up. You know what I'm going to do. You just saw it there. And we'll make sure that these reels are ready to go fishing when he takes his grandchildren out. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.